Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. Hundreds of thousands of pilgrims performed Friday noon prayers in Mecca ahead of the annual Hajj pilgrimage, where Muslims from all over the world descend to Mecca to carry out the rite. In today's sermon, the Imam of Mecca's Grand Mosque denounced those who cause conflict among Muslims as wars rage across the Middle East. Minister of State for Media Affairs Mohammed Al-Momani has said there are positive prospects regarding relations between Jordan and Syria, and that Jordan looks forward to improved bilateral relations. Speaking to JTV's Abir Al-Zaben on 60 Minutes, Momani said Jordanian-Syrian diplomatic relations have never been interrupted throughout the Syria crisis, with the embassies in both capitals operating as usual. The minister voiced optimism about the future stability in the region and said if calm prevails in southern Syria under an agreement between Jordan, the US and Russia, then that would lead to the reopening of the Jabir and Ramtha border crossings. On Iraq, he also voiced hope for an imminent reopening of the Tribil border crossing after the elimination of Daesh in most areas of the country. In Syria, meanwhile, the Syrian army released footage of its forces backed by Hezbollah fighters battling Daesh terrorists near the Syria-Lebanon border. The joint offensive to oust Daesh from Syria's western Qalamun region began last week, and yesterday Hezbollah said it had captured much of Daesh pocket on Syria's side of the border with Lebanon. In parallel, there have been talks with the group about a possible truce. The zone straddling the border is the last part of the Lebanese-Syrian frontier under Daesh control. Elsewhere in the country, the Syrian Democratic Forces are preparing for an offensive to oust Daesh from Deir el-Zur province. The offensive could start within several weeks, alongside the ongoing battle for Raqqa city, according to an SDF official. And in Iraq, the army broke through the lines of Daesh terrorist group inside Tel Afar, reaching the old city center and the neighborhood around the Ottoman-era citadel. According to a military statement, elite Iraqi units seized the northern neighborhoods of Nida, Al-Tali'a, Uruba, Al-Nasr and Sa'ad on their sixth day of the offensive. Tel Afar lies on the supply route between Syria and Mosul, some 80 kilometers to the east. It has produced some of the terrorist group's most senior commanders. To Yemen, where the United Nations urged respect for humanitarian law and pressed for an investigation into the killing of 12 people in an air raid that struck a building in the capital earlier today. The UN said 6 children were among the dead when an adjacent apartment block collapsed, urging all parties to the conflict to ensure full respect of the law. Residents said the strike did not target the apartment building where people were killed, but instead hit a vacant building next to it. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, urged the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, to use its authorities to ensure Tehran's compliance with the 2015 nuclear deal after nuclear inspectors were not granted access to Iran's military bases. In a wide-ranging briefing for reporters, Haley said the UN is encouraging the IAEA to pursue every angle possible to verify compliance with the deal. She spoke at the United Nations after a visit to Vienna and a meeting with the IAEA as part of US President Donald Trump's review of Iran's nuclear deal with former President Barack Obama. Iran's authorities had rejected giving access to military sites and said any such move would trigger harsh consequences. In Afghanistan, at least 13 people were killed when a suicide bomber blew himself up at the entrance to a Shiite mosque in Kabul as other attackers stormed the building. Amongst the dead were women, children and worshippers who had gathered for Friday prayers, and another 30 were wounded while police managed to rescue more than 100 worshippers. A Ministry of Interior spokesman said at least 3 policemen were also killed and 8 wounded. Daesh claimed responsibility for the attack. A French yachtsman wants to turn a boat design that won him a world speed sailing record in 2009 into a clean, fast taxi service. Alain Thibault calls the proposed taxi service for the waterways of major cities Sea Bubbles. The Sea Bubbles prototype preserves its battery by rising out of the water on legs at speed. but the speed limit in Paris remains an issue to be resolved. Sea Bubbles will have a mobile application like regular taxi services such as Uber, and its goal is to put an end to traffic jams in major cities. French President Emmanuel Macron championed the idea when he was economy minister. And to the U.S., where Hurricane Harvey intensified today into potentially the most powerful hurricane to hit the mainland in 12 years. It is set to make the landfall tonight or tomorrow on the central Texas coast, where Corpus Christi and Houston are home to some of the biggest U.S. refineries. Oil and gas operations have already been affected, and gasoline prices have spiked as Harvey grew into a Category 2 storm with winds of almost 170 kilometers per hour. Up to 97 centimeters of rain are expected over parts of Texas, and sea levels may surge as high as 3.7 meters. Drones enthusiasts are gathered at the World Robot Conference in Beijing for the China Drone Racing Final. 27 players from across the country participated in the competition, maneuvering their drones through obstacles trying to be the fastest. The event will be followed by other competitions such as a robot combat competition and the youth design contest, among others. China is considered one of the largest markets for industrial robots, with a growing demand for these kinds of products. Exhibitors from different areas of robotic research will be showcasing their work until the 27th. In the Indian Himalayas, a group of Buddhist nuns are not only using their martial arts skills to challenge gender roles in their conservative culture, but also to teach women self-defense, as reports of rape rise in India. The Kung Fu nuns' chants and prayers are usually followed by jabs and thrust kicks. They hold 5-day workshops for women and girls with a rigorous 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. schedule. The nuns also trek and cycle thousands of kilometers through the Himalayas to raise awareness on issues from pollution to human trafficking. They are now taking on one of the biggest threats facing women and girls in India today: rape. In sports, Real Madrid's Cristiano Ronaldo was named UEFA's Player of the Year, beating Lionel Messi and Gianluigi Buffon to the prize. He has now won the award 3 times. The Women's Player of the Year title went to Barcelona winger Lique Martins. In other categories, Juventus keeper Gianluigi Buffon picked up the Best Goalkeeper award, while Sergio Ramos won Best Defender, Luka Modric was Best Midfielder, and Ronaldo was the best striker. And finally, normal summer conditions prevail for the rest of tonight and tomorrow, as a high of 33 degrees Celsius is forecast in Amman with northwesterly moderate winds. And the Gulf of Aqaba can continue to expect high temperatures with a maximum of 42 degrees, while winds will be northerly moderate and the seas calm. With this, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Dana Absham. Thanks for watching and have a good night.